Well, hello and welcome to Understand Men Now. I'm Jonathan Aslay of jonathanAslay.com, and I'm so excited to be shooting this live stream for you today. Our topic, the 4 warning signs he's going to end the relationship. What do men say when they break up? Alrighty, really quickly, if you're new to my YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you can be notified of new content. And if there's anything during this video that resonates with you, please do me a favor and hit that like button. And we're going to be doing content first and then the Q&A. So if you just want to, if you're listening to the replay, just know for the next 5, 10, 15 minutes, it's going to be content. Then we're going to go straight to Q&A. All right, we're going to talk about the warning signs that men or women actually start to develop when they're about to end a relationship. Now, before I get into this, I want to share with you something very personal to me. I went through a divorce. After turning 40 and going through a divorce, which seems like a million years ago, but about a decade and a half ago, I remember, so I went through a divorce and I'm in family court because we had to go to court one time. And I'm, first off, just really quickly, when you go to family court, it's Aslay versus Aslay is what happened, and you're on the docket. And we happened to be 4th on the docket, but we had to get there at 8 a.m. because we didn't know which number we were in. So I'm sitting, we were number 4. So I'm listening to 3 other couples ahead of us. And I'm listening to what caused, what their issue was going on in their divorces. Okay. And I'm listening to the first couple, I'm listening to the second couple, I'm listening to the third couple. And I'm thinking to myself, do you know what? Anybody who ever gets married should go to family court first to see what causes endings of a relationship. Let me repeat that. People should go to family court before they ever get married so they can see the problems that happen in relationship. And it occurred to me that if you recognize what the problems are, you can avoid it in advance. You can avoid it or at least address them much sooner. Does that resonate with you? If it is, please hit that like button so I know this resonates with you, because the way I approach my coaching is very much reverse engineering. Taking what causes most endings in a relationship, what causes breakups, what causes people to stop loving one another, and try to head it off at the pass. And so I have over 20,000 hours of coaching. I've got over 3,000 hours of personal development workshops, both workshops, trainings, videos. I'm currently getting my cognitive behavioral therapy certificate. I have a neuro-linguistic programming certificate. And as I said before, 20,000 hours of coaching women. Now, I'm not saying this to impress you. I just want to impress upon you that what I'm about to share is because I've studied this. I'm not selling you on some bullshit idea of reverse psychology to get the guy back or get the girl. That to me is a lot of crap. I'm here to talk about human behavior and what causes people to do what they do. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating? Please let me know. Hit that like button so more people can get to see this. So one of the books that I've read, and by the way, for those who watch my videos know I continually recommend the same books over and over and over again because there's a reason for it. If you really want to have a successful relationship, I highly recommend reading about 10 of the books that I recommend. I mean, I recommend a variety of different books, but these books, and one happens to be by the author. One book is called 8 Dates by Dr. John and Julie Gottman. 8 Dates by Dr. John and Julie Gottman. Now, by the way, there's a link to all my Jonathan Recommend books in the description. But why I'm talking about John and Julie Gottman today is he did the exact same thing. He watched, I think, over 3,000 couples over a period of time to learn what were the problems in relationship. And then he reverse engineers it. So very much, before I even knew he existed, I had already been doing that. And he came up with the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, that he says, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. In other words, this is what causes most tension and aggravation in relationship. And the 4 horsemen are contempt, criticism, defensiveness, and stonewalling. Let me repeat that. Contempt, criticism, defensiveness, and stonewalling. So this is the common traits of what happens, not traits, experiences most couples have before a relationship ends. So I'm actually going to add to that what men say to give you clues so you can be prepared, okay? So let's jump into it. So the first one I'm sharing, and by the way, this isn't in the order of that I just shared, but the first one is when a man says, I'm busy, I'm busy. And he begins to be continually busy. In other words, there's chaos going on in his life. There's busyness going on in his life. There's always something else. This is after the initial stages of when men claimed you because they were chivalrous and they romanced you so they could get laid, because that's the driving force. You know, this whole rhetoric that men love the hunt. We don't love the hunt. We just like what comes after the hunt. We get laid. We don't actually like the hunt. We just like the byproduct of the hunt. And that's about them, you know, so when men are in the hunt mode, it's purely for sex. It's not like, I want to be in a relationship. I want the Notebook. I want serendipity. That's not how men operate. What are they on the hunt for? Sex. So they're very attentive in the beginning, but when men settle into the relationship, if they're ready, if they're losing interest in the relationship, they'll begin to start being busy. That's called stonewalling. In other words, they're prolonging things until they either get the courage to end the relationship or find someone new, or you break up with them. Okay. So when you notice a pattern of busy, 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 that's a clue. That's a warning sign that he may be ready to end the relationship. Okay. Number two. Now, this one I said, I wrote this down, so give me a second. I said, he walls up emotionally and doesn't share intimate things anymore. He's more factual. He talks in facts, not emotions. So he says things like, oh, I went to work today. Oh, I did the gym today. He's more curt. He's operating from a place of contempt. In other words, it's like you're aggravating him. So this contempt is this feeling of I'm better than you, or you don't matter to me. That's what contempt is. It's basically saying you don't matter anymore. Your feelings don't matter. And what's happening is they don't share intimacy with anymore. It's very curt, factual, curt, factual, curt, factual. Have you ever experienced this? If you have, please hit that like button and let me know, because these are the common traits or common experiences that happen before a breakup. So let's jump into number 3. Okay, I said I do content first, and then we'll jump into the Q&A. So number 3, he starts complaining about you. He almost seems mad. There's tension. He gets irritated with you regularly. This is where he starts criticizing you, complaining you. So remember I said, you know, there was stonewalling, contempt, and now this is criticism. Okay. And he also might turn it around. Things that are problematic, he might turn around and get defensive. Okay. So remember I said defensive is another one of the things. Now, defensiveness is very common when there's friction going on, because as human beings, we often operate from a place of ego and not love. Let me repeat that. We operate from a place of ego, not love. This is why I highly recommend, I have the CD version, but I recommend reading the book, Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. Why I love this book, and I have the CD version of it, is it all differentiates between ego and love. Ego and love. And we oftentimes operate from that fear-based ego place. In fact, in my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? And by the way, again, there's a link in the description to all the books I recommend. In my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? I go into differentiating how our ego operates from a place of both contempt, you know, for another, and also defensiveness, because the ego can't handle friction. The ego can't handle problems. So when you notice a man is complaining, he's getting irritated with you, he starts becoming defensive, that's a sign that he's probably getting ready to break up with you. And here's the 4th one, okay? And this one, I've heard this from a lot of women, okay? And I'm sorry, I shouldn't be laughing. I'm laughing because I've heard it so many times, not that this is funny. In fact, it's quite the opposite. But when a man starts pulling away sexually, he starts pulling away sexually, and he starts saying things like, I'm not in the mood, and he stops being affectionate, stops kissing you, that's a sign that he might have either shame going on within him, but it's a stonewalling act. This goes back to stonewalling. This is stonewalling the deeper issue that may be going on. The deeper issue that may be going on with him, that he may not be emotionally attached to you. Because when a man is deeply emotionally attached and he's got a penis and a libido, he's going to want to jump your bones on a regular basis. But when a guy is becoming detached from you, he also detaches from sex. Now, some men have high sex drive and they actually go seek out sex elsewhere, but I'm not talking about those guys. I'm talking about just the average garden variety midlife guy who might have some ED issues, but he's also, when he's detaching from you emotionally, he's going to most likely start detaching from you sexually. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating? Has this ever happened to you? Please let me know by hitting that like button. So, as I said before, when you reverse engineer problems, you can start recognizing. So what happens is, by understanding this, you can start predicting human behavior. And when you can predict human behavior, you can make better choices. This is why when I designed my private coaching program, and I'm so excited, several women signed up today. I only work with 6 women a month for my private boot camp, and a couple signed up for today. What they wanted help with is learning how to vet for emotionally mature men. Learning how to vet for emotionally mature men. Emotionally mature men lean into the problems within a relationship versus running away. Emotionally mature people lean into the problems instead of running away. Now, anxious people, needy people, like, they fight like hell to keep the relationship going, and they can fight like hell to keep a really crappy relationship going. I'm talking about those who want a juicy, delicious, healthy relationship. It requires learning which guys are emotionally available and which ones are not. And if you want some support on that, check out the link to a free discovery call with me in the description, because that's my area of expertise, to help re-educate you on the reverse engineering of a relationship and how to vet for emotional maturity. I hope this is sinking in. All right, I think it's time to take questions. So if you have a question, really quickly, write the word question, then write your question after the word question so I can see it in the live chat. And please hit that like button if this is resonating with you. What happens is, the more likes, more people get invited to the live stream. So I'd be really grateful if you did that. All right, I'm going to grab my cup. What does my cup say? Let that shit go. Let that shit go. All right, let's take a look. If you have a question, write the word question and then post it out, and let's take a look. By the way, for those who are watching the replay, the questions are the best part, so stick around because this gets really juicy, and then I have some trivia cards to go with us. So let's see if anyone's posted a question. At least, by the way, I want to say hi, Brandy. Hi, Tina. Hi, Avik. I can't even pronounce your name. All right. Hi, Ruby. All right. So it looks like we have a bashful group here. Don't you want to ask a question? Write the word question, post a question. Without question, this is going to be a short live stream, and I want this to go on for a while. While we're waiting for some questions, I'm going to throw in a quick movie trivia question. Let's see if you get this right. So, in the movie Say Anything, what song does Lloyd play from his boombox? What song does Lloyd play from his boombox? Let's see who gets that right. In the movie Say Anything, what song does Lloyd play from his boombox? Okay. All right. Let's see. I can't tell. Doesn't look like we have a group. We have a bashful group today. Do you have a question? Oh, okay. So Heather writes, can a man learn to be vulnerable? Can a man learn to be vulnerable? The answer is absolutely yes. A man can learn that. And let me just say how I know this. I wasn't a very, when I graduated college, I had a programming. Graduate college, get a job, meet a girl, get married, buy a house, start a family. That was my programming. And I was very hyper-focused on my career. In fact, who you see today is nothing like the person I was before. In fact, I was a total train wreck after my divorce. I was doing drugs. I was self-medicating for the pain, emotional pain I was in. I was drinking. I was serial dating. I was a mess. I couldn't be vulnerable if my life depended upon it. I had a very hard time being vulnerable with myself and being vulnerable with another human being. And what I realized, it takes what I call a humbling event for a man to shift out of egoic behavior and start shifting into heart-centered behavior. Let me repeat that. It takes a humbling event, in my case, the divorce and a lot of other things, but I literally used to curl up in a ball and went to bed wishing I would in the middle of the day curl up wishing I didn't wake up. I was in that much pain, and I had 2 children. And those of you know I lost a child. So, I mean, the fact that I didn't want to be around, could you, like now losing Connor, how much, all right, now I'm going to get emotional because I was just thinking, I can't even imagine what my boys would have felt if I didn't choose to survive. So my point is, now I'm really getting choked up, it's absolutely possible, but a man most likely needs a humbling event. And listen, I was taken down to my knees after my divorce. I got wiped out in the market crash. I was a train wreck. And as I started to rebuild my life, my knees were cut out again when Connor passed away. And I can tell you that the only way I survived it was doing all the personal development work, spiritual work. This is why I'm constantly recommending books. In fact, one of my all-time favorite books that I highly recommend is reading The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. This was what helped me prepare to write my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? And this is all about Connor. I mean, it's all about the experience, not all about, but he broke my heart open. So going back to vulnerability, I just want to say to you that it took losing my son to really break my heart open. That's a picture of him in the book, by the way. So I just to go back to answer your question, yes, men can learn to be vulnerable. It typically takes a humbling event. Does this resonate? It happened. This is true for human beings alike. All right, now we got a lot of questions coming in. So let me give me a second to catch up to this. Bear with me, everyone, because a lot of content is going on between a couple people, which makes it hard for me to find. Okay. All right, here we go. Question, Kim writes, how soon is too soon to start dating a man that is still married but in the process of divorce? How soon is too soon to start dating a man who's still married and in the process of divorce? So, you know, there's an expression. I forgot the expression. I was literally about to share an expression. I forgot it. So let me just tell you, when you date a man who's still divorced or going through a divorce, you're not just dating him, you're dating every problem that comes in his life, which includes his ex-spouse. So when someone is still going through a divorce, you're dating his ex-spouse, okay? And you're stuck with whatever's going on in that dynamic. So my invitation for you is, I mean, if you're going to date him, then schedule a date with his ex or with his current wife, because he's still married. Okay, until the ink is signed, he's still married. And I would recommend scheduling a telephone date with her, because you're going to be dating her whether you like it or not. Okay, so this is why most women have learned the hard way not to date someone who isn't completely divorced, because the tapestry here, I want you to imagine this was what marriage looks like. And now you're unraveling the tapestry of this old life. And until it's completely healed, and then until he's actually spent some time on his own, what often happens is you become what's known as the transitional girlfriend. In fact, I'll never forget this. After my divorce, or when we filed for divorce, I wasn't divorced. We had just filed for divorce. I met a woman online and I really liked her profile. And she asked me, how long are you divorced? I said, we're in the process of divorce. And this is what she wrote me. She said, Jonathon, reach out to me when it's been 18 to 24 months after your divorce and you've had 1 to 2 transition girlfriends. Let me repeat that. Reach out to me 18 to 24 months after your divorce and you've had 1 or 2 transition girlfriends. I'm like, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. Sure enough, I run into her. I see her online 3 years later, and I now finally divorced. And I saw her profile and I told her what she wrote me. And I said, you are absolutely right. I had 2, 3 transition girlfriends until I could actually be in the space I am today to even be ready for a relationship. So you're rolling the dice, you know, with someone who's still married. And I highly recommend, if you're going to go down that road, call his ex-wife. Get in a conversation with her because you'll be dating her whether you like it or not. Does anyone agree with this? Hit that like button or write a comment. All right, Kim, I hope I answered your question. Mike writes, please help how, okay, Mike, question, please help, how do you learn to let go of someone who is not in love with you? How do you learn to let go of some, well, you let that shit go, Mike. How do you learn to let go of someone? Here's the thing. You have a choice. You can be here, let me do this. Let me show you a little diagram here. Parent, adult, child. Now, the adult in you knows to end a relationship. They're not right for you for whatever reason. They're not right for you, okay? So you recognize that, and you recognize you have to let go. But you're not in your adult, you're in your child. And when you're in your child, the person you're in relationship goes into parent mode. So if you're going to stay in childhood, you don't need to learn anything. You just need to make a decision. Okay. If you feel like the relationship is not healthy for you and it is misaligned for you, you have a choice. You can either be a child or you can step into your adulthood. This is why I highly recommend reading the book I'm about to share with you. How to be an adult in a relationship. Children stick around a child mind stick around in unhealthy things. Adults, people that are victors consciousness, not victim consciousness, lean into adulthood. So you don't need to learn anything. You just have to take action. And by the way, I'm yelling just like a child is about to touch fire. You're touching fire and I'm yelling at you so you can stop it. And now I'm spitting. Okay. So you have a choice, be a child or be an adult or be a parent. But if this relationship isn't right for you, then end it or go seek therapy or something. But you said you need to learn how. This isn't anything you learn. This is something you do. I hope that resonates with you. If it does, please hit that like button. Moni writes, vulnerability is so hard for me. By the way, vulnerability is as equally as hard for women as it is for men. Tina Lee, thank you. How should I, okay, thank you, by the way. Ivanka writes, how should I tell a man I haven't dated in the past 5 years? How should I tell a man I haven't dated in the past 5 years because of a disability? So if I understand the question correctly, there's a man who has a disability and you don't want to date him. Is it because of the disability or something else? But how should you tell him? You simply say, you know what, Tim, I really appreciate who you are. I just don't feel like we're aligned and I don't have those feelings for you. Ladies, why do you have to make this complicated? It's really simple. You know, we have to stop worrying about other people's feelings. Now, by the way, chapter 1 in my book, Speak Your Truth, Do It with Kindness. Speak your truth, do it with kindness. You can simply be kind and still speak your truth. But this fear around speaking your truth, stop it. Start leaning into it, because if you keep stuffing your feelings, and I'm using this as an example for a variety of other things, but if you stuff your feelings, you know, what's the point of living? You know, get busy living or get busy dying. Start expressing your feelings. Just do it in a kind way. That's all you have to do, is be kind. And yes, you know what, someone might get, you might say, well, Jonathan, they might get hurt. You can't hurt someone, only they can hurt themselves. That's, remember I talked about the ego? You know, that's why Return to Love is a great book, to understand that the ego makes up stories. You don't have to follow that patterning anymore. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating? Please hit that like button. Thank you. All right. Hugs from Texas. Thank you, Tina Lee. Okay, Linda writes, happening after a 33 marriage. Do I confront? What do I say? Linda, your question doesn't make sense. Happening after a 33-year marriage, when do I confront? What do I say? I don't understand what's happening. All right, next question, Tanja. Bear with me, it just moved. If a man says he's confirmed bachelor, what does that really mean? Is he or can he be in a relationship? All right, when a man says he's a confirmed bachelor, let's just think about George Clooney, right? The quintessential confirmed bachelor. Now, he eventually made a choice to decide to partner with someone. But here's the thing, he was very upfront with women. I'm a confirmed bachelor, okay? So he basically says that basically, I'm willing to sleep with you and spend time with you, but there is no effing way I'm going to commit to you. And usually it takes someone uniquely, it takes a woman, and I think his wife is a perfect example of this. She probably didn't, she acted like she didn't care about him. Now, I don't mean that she didn't, but she had so much self-confidence, self-esteem, self-worth, self-love. She was sovereign in herself, that intoxicated him, is what I suspect. So you roll the dice when a guy says he's a confirmed bachelor. Now take me, for example, my dating profile. Here, listen, I'm going to go on match.com. Okay. This is match.com. Okay. Match, see? And I'm going to read you my profile. Okay. Right here. These are in my words. Do you see that? In my words. Okay. First words. Let me start with the following. I would like to get remarried or at least live together. And I'm seeking a woman who feels the same. For me, this isn't about growing old with someone. I want to grow in life and love with some special woman. I'm clear. Okay. You have a choice. You can choose the men who are unclear and roll the dice, or at least if you want to improve your odds, then start choosing men who at least lean into, I want something serious versus I'm a confirmed bachelor. That's my invitation for you. By the way, did anyone get the trivia question right? Okay. Heather, oh, my sweetness, I'm so sorry. Heather says she lost her son. Oh, my heart breaks. All right, Karen writes, what are the top reasons so many relationships break up after 2 years or so? I understand 4 things you described, and I'm wondering the main things that lead to those characteristics. Okay, so here's my perception of why most relationships fail. Okay, so I want you to think of 4 legs. Oh, let's see. These are 4 fingers, right? 4 legs to a chair. I'm sitting on a stool right now. The first leg of a chair is chemistry, that attraction we have for one another. Important leg of the chair. The second most important leg of the chair is, and this is in no order, is shared values. Shared values. Do you share values with the same person? With this person, or at least close to it. Number 3, blendable lifestyles. This is where a lot of relationships get stuck, especially at midlife, because it's not like the Brady Bunch where Carol had her kids and Mike had his kids and they just blended together. That's not the way it works in today. And 4th leg in the stool is emotional maturity. So the reason why most relationships end, because there's either a lack of, there's not much shared values, there's lifestyles aren't blendable, or the people aren't emotionally mature. That's why there's contempt, criticism, stonewalling, defensiveness, okay? That's the byproduct of what happens when people aren't aligned, when they're not driving in this, they're not seeing the future through the same window. And sadly, and this is really the critical piece, Commitment is so fucking weak these days. The level of commitment is basically um, an agreement to monogamy and exclusivity with very little thereafter. Esther Perel, who wrote the book Mating in Captivity, says that today's relationships are known as what's called stable ambiguity. Stable ambiguity. And what that means is the stableness is the agreement to exclusivity and monogamy. And the ambiguous piece is, where the fuck is this relationship going? There's no commitment other than just being present. This is why it's, ladies, I always say, you are in charge of your relationship destiny, and you are actually the emotional leaders of the relationship. If you want to build a deep foundation, deep roots of trust in a relationship where a guy feels like this is the most juicy, delicious relationship, couple things. Read the books I recommend, and then schedule a discovery call with me so you don't fall into the trap. By the way, there's a link to schedule a discovery call with me, because I'm here to teach you the roots to deeper commitment, Because when someone is deeply committed, they're not going to end the relationship in 2 years. But again, you need chemistry, shared values, blendable lifestyles, and emotional maturity. And by the way, the vast majority of the population has weak emotional skills. This is men and women alike. Women, you're just as bad as this is men. Stop thinking you're better at this. Just because women tend to be more emotional doesn't mean your skills are any better than men. Men stuff their feelings, there's no doubt, but you equally have a hard time expressing your feelings. In fact, one woman just wrote, I have a hard time with vulnerability, so that illustrates it. All right, thank you, Karen, for your question. Angie writes, I dated a widower for 3 months. He lost his wife. He was very kind and sweet. And okay, thank you. All right, Boo Boo writes, don't forget, write the word question, then question. Boo Baker writes, what are the signs that my ex is remorseful after the breakup? I'm noticing he's posting pictures wearing my favorite color. He's posting pictures of the city where where the breakup took place. You know, my first reaction reading that, Boo, is you're projecting what he's doing. Because unless you know for a but look he cared about you. Most likely cared about you. But here's the thing, caring about someone doesn't just because you care for someone doesn't mean your relationship is going to work out. So depending on what the reason was for the breakup, we all I have regret even after my divorce. I have regret after my breakup with my significant relationship after my divorce. I have regret for a lot of women that I dated and we don't see each other. And I have a little bit of regret, a little bit of remorse, a little bit of, missing them. This is just part of human behavior. But who cares if he's remorseful? Why are you caring about that? What really matters most is, are you developing a life together or not? Because guess what? When he meets someone else or you meet someone else, he's going to become, or you're going to become, somebody I used to know. Does anyone remember that song by Goaty, Somebody I Used to Know? I should play that song right now, but I'll get copyright busted. Somebody I Used to Know. Does anyone know that song? So stop focusing on a relationship that's not here. Focus on getting the relationship you want. Does this sink in? Thumbs up, please. All right, boom. Sorry I yelled. I'm just being loving, believe it or not. Okay, Tracy writes, how do I support my boyfriend who's going through a hard time? How much space should I give him? First off, you can't give anyone space, okay? Person can take space, but you can't give them space, okay? So if someone's going through a hard time, I have a couple things. How deeply rooted is the trust in your relationship? Do you guys have a significant commitment? Do you have a game plan of taking the relationship from being a relationship to partnership to something deeper? Because when someone's going through a hard time, and by the way, this is the challenge with most relationships. Most everybody is going through a hard time. But you know what? I'm going to share something very intimate here and very personal. And I truly believe that when someone is of character, okay, emotional, let me backtrack and I'll share what I'm going to share with you in a second. Emotional maturity means actions matching words consistently. taking personal responsibility for one's choices, victor consciousness and not victim consciousness. Okay. Learning how to do what I call fight fair. That means when you're in a disagreement, it's not about being right. It's about being happy. That's listening to the other person's point of view, accepting the other person's point of view as being true for them, and you doing the same for them. Number 4 is empathy. And empathy isn't just, I can feel your feelings. Empathy is I care about your feelings. And lastly, transparency. If it's material to the relationship, then someone is transparent with you. Okay, that's how a grown-up operates. Now, some people say that they don't, they look at facing challenges. The difference between a child, remember, here's the picture. The child and the adult is how you face challenges. So I'm going to share something very personal. On the day that Connor passed away, I had a date that night. I had a planned date from someone from a dating site. We talked a couple days prior, we planned the date. I'd even sent her a text message that morning saying, I look forward to seeing you. Okay. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I get a phone call from my ex-wife. There's paramedics at the house. And then as I was driving, and I'm rushed over there, as I'm driving over there, I get the phone call, he passed away. I spent the next 7 hours at my ex-wife's house because there was shit going on at the time between police and paramedics and all that kind of stuff, coroner and everything. I had the respect to tell someone I couldn't make the date. I sent her a text message. I said, we've had a family tragedy unexpectedly and I can't make the date. I didn't tell her it was my son. I just said a family tragedy. My point in sharing this, when someone says they don't have enough time to do anything, I could have blown her off. And I could have just totally blown her off, called her 2 days later, or she might have called me and said, my son passed away. And she would have said absolute grace and forgiveness. But true character is stepping into the difficult things. And this is what I'm so fucking tired of, human beings not stepping into things that are important in a relationship. So going back to someone having a hard time. If someone's having a hard time, they may not be ready for a committed relationship. I think it's important to have real deep conversations. Ladies, before the penis gets to go inside the vagina, start talking to each other. Read this book, 8 Dates. By the way, reading this book with someone brand new builds deep trust with another human being. When you can read this book together, right at the time you're starting to have sex together, when you're fucking each other, this is the kind of shit you should be talking about. But no, Jonathan, we have to talk about this book, the rules, because the rules say men have to be chivalrous and they have to claim you, and you just sit in our feminine energy and just lean back in our feminine energy and stop being in our masculine energy and trying to control things and blah, 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 and everything will just magically work out. Does that really fucking happen? Does it just magically work out because you're just sitting in your feminine? No. It takes having grown-up conversations. It takes having adult conversations to really get to know another human being. I'm yelling because I'm tired of watching women over and over give their power away to men. I mentioned this in the last live stream. I have a client who I'm actually going to be getting on the phone with her boyfriend. I'm going to get on the phone with her boyfriend to say, what's your fucking intentions? Are you serious about this person? Or are you just fucking around? Because I'll come over and kick the shit out of you if you're just fucking around. Like I wished I was there with you guys. I could have that shotgun, and say, look, what's your intentions? Stop choosing people, ladies, that have no real intentions. Just like I read to you, my profile says, I want to get remarried. Crystal clear. Choose men who are intentional instead of, you know what? I'm just a confirmed bachelor. I'm just looking for something casual. Oh my God, you're interrogating me on this date. You're interrogating me. You should fucking absolutely interrogate people, because guess what? Your time is valuable to you. Now, let me pause. You can interrogate in a kind, loving way. It's called conversation. You just have to learn to ask the right questions. And most of you ladies don't know how to do that. If you want help, check out a link to that's what I do as a coach. I mean, I'm offering all this great content for free. But ultimately, if you want to go to that next step and to be in a juicy, delicious relationship, you might need some help. That's what I can help you with. All right. I went off on there. Thank you, Tracy. All right. Jean writes, I cannot be the, oh, sorry, it skipped. Bear with me, Jean, sorry. Okay, I cannot be the only person that finds meeting men difficult, no less emotionally mature men. Besides online, how do people meet these days? Things are different in the 2000s. All right, so Jean, great question. So I want you to know that men and women are equally emotionally immature. I'm going to tell you something. I'm out in the dating realm. I find nothing but emotionally immature women most of the time. There's either the entitled woman who's the, you know, it's all about her, or there's the doormat type of woman who's just literally afraid, and she sets her standards so low that she accepts anything. The entitled woman sets such ridiculous standards, and it's all about her. And usually someone somewhere in between. Same true for men. Now, where are people meeting? 50% or more of all new relationships are happening through this device, through our smartphones and through our laptops. That's where 50% of all people are meeting. And especially because of the pandemic, that happened to be the #1 place. And a lot of people fell in love. The real challenge is not meeting them, although it is, I get it. It's vetting them. It's learning how to ask the right questions. It's about going deeper than the surface bullshit. So I want you to read this book. If the Buddha dated, okay? This teaches you how to date from a spiritual perspective, from a heart-centered perspective. And I promise you, if you lean into this book, you're going to feel a renewed sense of confidence in the dating realm, because it's not about meeting him, it's about meeting you. And when you meet you, really meet you, guys will start flocking to you. Now, the trick is learning how to vet. That's what I teach. So I hope I helped, Jane. Thank you. Katharina says, Jonathan, I totally agree. Thank you. I'm Enough said, there are no cookie ways that a man or woman will act. I don't get that one. Linda writes, in a 33-year marriage and husband has begun stonewalling, what do I say or do? 33-year marriage, most likely, I suspect in the 33 years, there is so much stuff under the rug that's going to be a challenge. I'm a big proponent of couples doing couples therapy. I'm a big proponent to start talking to one another, really talking to one another. Most couples, this is what John Gottman and Julie Gottman said, is after a while, most couples, all they talk about is what time do we have to, if they have children, what time do we have to pick up kids? What time do we have to go to Easter? What time do we have to pay the bills? What time do we have to do this? It's all the facts of the relationship. It lacks intimacy. Now, first, take him in the bedroom and fuck his brains out. And then during sex, say to him, look, I'd like us to have greater intimacy, and I would like us to see a therapist. That's one way of doing it. Do it while he's happy and he might be agreeable. And my guess is you guys haven't had a lot of sex in your relationship. So that's going to make it even doubly hard. But here's the thing. You have a choice. You can say to him, look, let's be real with each other. Our relationship kind of, I'm assuming here, by the way, okay? I'm just making an assumption here. And our marriage kind of sucks. We can stay in it or we can choose to improve it. Which one do you want? Just talk to one another. That's what's needed. That's my impression anyway, Linda. I hope that helps. Okay, Susan writes, men never end relationships. They just behave badly and reasonable until we women get so fed up and we finish with them. Okay, men, it's true. Men tend to nest in relationship. We nest. We typically, once we're in, we don't go anywhere. So that's true. But I'm here to say, ladies, do you want to have a juicy, delicious relationship, or do you want to have a mediocre relationship? If you want juicy, delicious, check out this book called Spiritual Partnership by Gary Zukav, Spiritual Partnership. This teaches you about what a really juicy, delicious relationship looks like. Start following Gay and Catherine Hendricks, and start following John and Julie Gottman, and start following Harville Hendricks and where's the other book? I guess I didn't bring it. Oh, and Helen Hunt. getting the love you want. This is the kind of stuff you should be talking. You should be talking about the 5 love languages. You should be talking about attachment style. But no, Jonathan, men are supposed to be chivalrous and claim us, and they're just going to do all the work because they're so good at it. Like, really? Is that really fucking true? Why is the #1 search term, why are men commitment phobic? Ladies, you are in charge of your relationship destiny. Stop believing that feminine energy is just going to magically make the guy grow up. It's going to take a lot more from you. It's going to take being intentional and start having deeper conversations with one another. And here's the thing, you'll probably break up, but you're going to be much prepared for the next guy if you learn how to communicate the deeper shit instead of the surface stuff. John Gottman says most marriages end because it's all surface level, stable ambiguity. In fact, Esther Perel says erotic desire is lacking in so many relationships. I'm talking about erotic desire isn't just fucking each other's brains out. It's stimulating the mind in each other. I yell because I'm trying to help shift perspective and stop being such children in relationships, start becoming a grown-up in relationship. And what means by being a grown-up, that means being intentional instead of the fantasy-based way of dating. I did a post about, like who should pay for a date, and every woman was lambasting men instead of actually coming from a place of generosity. It was all based on expectation. And you wonder why men complain about women? This is a 2-lane street. Women, you're just as bad at this. This is why when women go through my boot camp, I get phone calls weeks later. Jonathan, I met a great guy. Jonathan, I met a great guy. Jonathan, I'm getting engaged. Jonathan, I'm getting engaged. Jonathan, my marriage is in a few weeks. Where do I send the invitation? That's the kind of calls I get because it's about reprogramming everybody instead of this stupid narrative that chemistry and men being chivalrous is all you need for it to work. Okay. I'm just yelling my head off. All right, let's scroll up. If you have a question, write the word question and then post it. Okay, Jennifer writes, it appears many date more than one person at a time. Is this something you recommend? I can't do it, but I feel I waste time and energy dating for 2 months for it to go pear-shaped. Okay. Let me just be clear about something. I just want you to think about that. So you could follow the advice of what's called duty dating or circular dating. That means this is taught to women to date multiple men at the same time and wait for the cream to rise to the top. I just want you to think about this. Let's just assume that men are doing the same thing. They're dating multiple women. Okay. And by the way, are you having sex with these people for 2 or 3 months? Are you having sexual intercourse? Is the penis getting going inside the vagina for all these men? Because that to me is you know what? I'm not into cooties. Okay. But if you're dating multiple people and he's dating multiple people, how the fuck are you ever going to get to know each other? Ladies, this advice is terrible advice. And quite frankly, I'm going to tell you something. When I meet a woman, I tell them very quickly, if we like each other, I'd like to date and explore a relationship. And I only date one person at a time. How do you operate? That's how I start off. I only date one person at a time. Now, let me differentiate between meeting a woman and dating a woman. The first date is not, if you're meeting a stranger, the first date is not a date, it's a meeting. Okay, that's it. It's not a date, it's a meeting. You have to do the sniff test. Like dogs, they sniff each other. You have to sniff each other. That's where the pheromones and testosterone and estrogen and dopamine all get going, right? You sniff each other. The first date is, the second time you see each other is the first date. But if you get to 3 dates with someone, my philosophy is you date one person at a time. If you've seen each other once, that's the meeting. You've gone on a date, you've gone on one more date, and and the third date is planned, you don't need to be dating other people. But Jonathan, I might get attached to the wrong guy. If you get attached to the wrong guy, that shit's on you. Because would you want him dating multiple people? This is why dating is such a clusterfuck, because everybody's dating 15 people at the same time. And what's happening is called a paradox in choice. Paradox in choice. And what that means is, It's once we have all these options, we can't make a decision. So let's stop dating multiple people and date one person at a time, see where it goes. If it doesn't work out, and by the way, if you learn to vet them like I teach, you won't waste your 2 or 3 months with someone. You can cut to the quick and get on to the next one. Listen, would you like to date 100 men and hope that one of them works out? Or would you like to narrow it down to 3 out of those 100 and maybe choose your soulmate from that? That's what I teach in my private coaching. So my opinion, I date only one person at a time. That's my invitation, but you're welcome to follow the advice of others. Multiple dating, I think, leads to a lot of pain and heartache later on down the road. Not multiple meeting, multiple dating. Thank you. I appreciate your yelling. Okay, Boo, I appreciate that. Okay. Sandy writes, I bought 2 copies of 8 Dates. The next guy that I get serious with has to read it before sex. Way to go. By the way, don't forget my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? All right. Happy Easter, Gita. Thank you. All right. Let's see. We got some questions here. All right. Lisa writes, my boyfriend and I are long distance. He is moving down to Florida here to be with me. He has a bad case of COVID, told me it's not my problem and to let him be. That was 3 days ago. Why shut me out? Well, someone who has COVID, my God, that has to be very scary. I mean, you know, I remember I spent, this was 6 months ago, I was with my family and my niece turned out to have COVID. And I thought, oh my God, what if I get it? What if I get sick? What if I die? I mean, I did get scared. So someone who's experiencing COVID depends on if they're sick or they just have the, whatever, the virus, but not sick. So if someone's actually sick, they're probably scared. They're probably not in a capacity to lean into the relationship at the moment. But I think there's something else going on that you're not telling me. Let me read this again. Well, first off, you have long distance and he moved. So he had a plan to move. And so he's asking, well, what he's saying is, look, I have a bad case of COVID. It's not your problem. In other words, he wants to deal with it. He's not asking you to nurture him, and he's asking for space. I'm not sure 3 days is that out of line for someone who wants space. I'm going to guess something else is going on, but you don't know what it is yet. So I would just check in with him as a loving partner, depending on how long you two have been together. Just say, hey, sweetheart, I'm here for you when you need me. Okay. And, but if that goes on too long, there's probably something else going on and you're going to find out about it most likely sooner rather than later. And it'll be a bummer because it sounds like it could be something that maybe he just doesn't want to move. I mean, for someone to move, that's a big commitment. And maybe he's having second thoughts and he's using the COVID as a smokescreen. That's just my speculation. Paula writes, expectation begets resentment. Exactly. Jonathan, you don't yell. Jonathan, you are great. Us women, sometimes we need to be told. Well, that's how I feel. Thanks, Finn. Leaf writes, exactly, Jonathan, where chemistry ends, confidence and honest communication continues, especially as we get older. Exactly. Angie writes, do you think a man who lost his wife 3 months ago is ready to fall in love with another woman? She was in deep depression for 1 year before she passed away. So it depends on how in love with her. If he was deeply in love with her, he may never heal from that. My question is, how has he healed from it? That's a very traumatic and emotional event. I don't think 3 months is enough time to heal. Doesn't mean by the way, codependent men attach themselves to the first woman. That happens frequently. Widowers immediately attach themselves to the first woman. That happens frequently. But it doesn't mean that and by the way, they get married very quickly. But did you know that 65 to 70% of second marriages fail? That's because they haven't healed. So I would caution you to date someone who hasn't healed. And again, I think it takes a minimum of 2 years on your own to truly heal. But most humans are so codependent that they'll attach themselves to the next person. you may want to read this book, Codependent No More, to understand what could possibly going on, whether it's you or him. I highly recommend that book. Okay. Wow. By the way, my book, where's my book? What the Heck is Self-Love? Anyway, I had gotten from one of the followers here, she has a book club, and this month has been my book, so I get to join them for their last call this month on my book. I am so honored. For those who purchased my book, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. For those that have referred my book, I'm so grateful. I can't begin to tell you how much it means to me. Not because I make a boatload of dough. I make a few bucks every book. It's not the money. It's the difference that's happening. It's the invitation to do personal development, self-help, and spiritual work. And I'm a big proponent of everyone to lean into their sovereignty, to lean into their oh my God, I smell. Lean into their self-esteem, self-confidence, self-worth, and self-love. I hope this is resonating with you. Please hit that like button. Listen, I've got to get ready for the book club, so I think this is a good time to end. By the way, the song in the trivia question, I didn't see it. The song was in the movie Say Anything. What song does Lloyd play from his boombox? In Your Eyes by Peter Gabriel. In Your Eyes by Peter Gabriel. I love that song. Love, love, love that song. Do you have a favorite song? Please post it below. I'd like to hear it. All right, I'm just going to repeat the 4 warning signs he's going to end the relationship, what a man says. First off, I want to repeat the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse is contempt, criticism, stonewalling, and defensiveness. And men say things like this: I'm too busy. That's stonewalling. He starts complaining in the relationship and starts turning it around. That's defensiveness or criticism. Contempt is he starts pulling back on his emotions and starts, let me just read what he says. He starts talking facts instead of intimacy. And lastly, he stops initiating sex or avoids sex altogether by saying, I'm not in the mood. He stops kissing. He stops being affectionate. Those are 4 warning signs to be cognizant of. Oh, Def Leppard. Thanks, Leaf. To be cognizant of, because it might be a sign that your relationship is on the brink. I hope you found value in this video. If you have, please share this with friends. Tell all your friends. Give this to guys. Have guys watch this and tell me what they think. I'd like to hear their thoughts. I know men starting to watch me. For those who know me, I'm going to wrap up my video as I always do. First off, giving myself a big, gigantic Jonathon Bear hug of self-love. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug of love, if that's okay. I'm going to ask you to turn to someone or a pet or a teddy bear or a pillow and give it or them a hug of love, because hugs are a great source of love, and we can all use more love in our lives. Thanks a bunch. Bye-bye now.